The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
So we are back with another interview. This time we have a legendary referee who has been in the business for WWE, I think from 1989 to 2009, if that's correct. Am I right, Jimmy?
Actually, technically 85 when I started working
85.
I started working for Jack Tunney here in the Toronto office, which was a part of the WWF at the time. So, yeah, technically 85.
So yeah, that's a very long stretch. What would you say is some of your favorite moments?
Oh, wow. Where do I begin? I mean, I've been blessed to do something I loved. I loved wrestling as a kid, grew up watching it, was fortunate to get into the business. And when I did, getting to referee WrestleMania in my hometown at the Sky Dome in Toronto, WrestleMania 6 was amazing. Those are the great memories there. Getting to referee a main event at WrestleMania, full circle there, WrestleMania 24, with Edge and Undertaker. Just getting to share the ring with some of the greatest that got to do this through several eras. I mean, not too many people get to say that they got to work from everywhere, from Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, all the way through to the Stone Colds and the Undertakers and the John Cenas and the Rocks and that sort of thing. So, so many memories. I don't even know where to begin.
That's very true, man. Like you said, you've the Attitude Era, you've the Ruthless Aggression Era, the Monday Night Wars, Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. There's just so many. You mentioned a name there who is recently now the 17-time WWE champion. What do you think of that?
I don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people are saying, no, that record should have stayed intact. And I understand technically Ric Flair has won more world championships. But if you're talking strictly just WWE, John Cena does have that record. So I know a lot of people are up in arms. Why did he come back? This is killing Cody's momentum. I don't think so. I just didn't like the way it was executed at WrestleMania. That's the only complaint I had. I didn't have a complaint with the match itself until Travis Scott showed up and took, I don't know, what was it, an hour and a half to get to ringside, but he did take a while to get there. But I think that's a lot to do with the fact that he's not aware of how to get things done in the wrestling business. I'm obviously he's a fan and that sort of thing, but it's different being a fan and different being there and having the experience to know how long to take and what to do. That being said, to get back to your question, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I'm okay with it. Again, like I said, the only problem I have is the way it was executed at WrestleMania. I think it could have been done differently. I would have liked to have seen John Cena be more win the match in more of a heel fashion as opposed to counting on someone else. And if it was counting on someone else to beat Cody, it needed to be someone of significance. And I get Travis Scott has an audience, but as far as the wrestling audience goes, it's not the same. So that's 100%. Why I think that's why people are not happy with it. And I wasn't thrilled with it. I don't mind the decision. I just don't like the way it came about.
So obviously now we've got Orton and Cena for Backlash, pretty much. Do you think, because obviously Orton's a couple of years younger than Cena, obviously can move better at the moment and stuff like that. Do you think Orton should catch up?
It's an interesting argument. At least you have that in play when you're trying to tell the story as to why Orton versus Cena. Orton can obviously make that clear when he talks about it, when he does his promo leading up to the match. I like the matchup, though. I think those two can work very well together. Randy Orton, in my opinion, still to this day, is the most complete worker in the business. And people are going to say, what do you mean by that, worker? There's a difference between being a great wrestler and a great worker. And a lot of fans are gravitating now towards guys who can do a lot of moves and do a lot of good wrestling. But a good worker knows how to get the audience engaged in more than just the moves that they do. And Randy Orton, I think, still is if not the best, one of the best in the business that's still doing it. And him and John Cena will know how to tell great stories and get fans invested without having to pull out I use this term a lot, a twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash. You know what I mean? They don't need to do that stuff. And the biggest complaints that everybody has, well, this guy has only 5 moves. This guy only has 4 moves. Whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you engage your audience and get them invested in what they're doing. And I think people are forgetting that. They're so fixated on this match ratings that they're forgetting about the actual stories that are being told. Again, I'm sounding like the old guy screaming, "Get off my lawn," and screaming at clouds, but it's still, I try to explain it like this. Wrestling from day one has counted on heels and baby faces. That's the model that's been done for over 100 years. And wrestling is like the wheel. The wheel, when it was first invented, was made of stone. And then it evolved. And it was made of wood because it was lighter and easier to transport. Then it became rubber. Then it became different variations of the rubber. You had run flat tires, vulcanized rubber, all season tires, all winter tires, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, the wheel is round. Because if the wheel is not round, you can't move forward. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of times people are waiting for someone to reinvent the wheel, and you can't reinvent the shape of the wheel. If you make it, even if it's oval, it's still not going to turn, correctly. Anyways, did I go off on another tangent again?
It happens, but obviously we're all critics at some point, whether that's wrestling or just in real life with stuff that goes on. Mm-hmm. You've been, like we mentioned, you've been in the business for quite a while. Was you there through the Montreal screw job?
Yes, I was.
Talk to me about that.
Well, okay. I did not referee the match. That was Earl. So the match started hot. Well, actually, technically didn't start. They started brawling through the crowd and stuff like that. So they sent us out there to help try to break things up and keep order. And basically what we were doing is trying to keep the fans off of Bret and Sean, because while they were fighting through the crowd, they were like right on top of everybody. So we were trying to be like a buffer, try to create a barrier until they worked their way back to ringside. And after that, we went back and we were waiting. And what we were told was at the end of the match was going to turn into a big schmaz, disqualification, double DQ, no contest, basically. And they were going to do the same thing. They were going to brawl, and members of Sean's entourage and then some of the Hart Foundation would come up, and it'd be a big, big brawl with everybody. And we'd go out there and try to, break things up, restore order, that kind of stuff. And I was sitting at Gorilla, actually standing, and I was standing right beside Bruce Pritchard, who was the guy who was talking to everybody in our earpieces that night. And they were getting to the finish, and Sean puts Bret in the sharpshooter, and I'm watching the monitor, and all of a sudden, Earl had taken the bump, so he's down. And all of a sudden, I hear someone talking in my earpiece going, "Okay, now Earl, get up now." And I thought, I'm looking at Bruce, and Bruce wasn't the one talking. So that had to come from the truck. Somebody in the truck was instructing Earl when to get up and when to ring the bell. And we're all looking at each other, and, he called for the bell, and everybody was confused. And even Bruce looked confused. If he knew, then he did a fantastic acting job. That's for sure. But everybody was, Owen and Davey Boy were at Gorilla, and everybody was going, what the hell just happened here? No, it was all confusion.
Yeah, I bet it was. It's weird because obviously you've been through so many good and bad times in the business. Mm-hmm. You mentioned obviously one there, Owen. Mm-hmm. God rest in peace. One of the most gifted wrestlers, I will say, ever.
Yes.
The way he moved in the ring and stuff like that is, man, unbelievable.
Owen was so gifted. A lot of comparisons, obviously, to his brother Bret. I mean, technically sound. Bret is one of the most technically sound in-ring performers. Owen was just as good, but Owen had that little extra where he was able to connect with an audience, whether it was through comedy, through seriousness. He could run the gamut of emotions, but he could also back it up in the ring. And even his in-ring style, he could wrestle, technically sound like his brother, but could also do that other style where like he was the Blue Blazer and have fun. He was able to do it all. When you talk about most underappreciated all-around performers ever, I don't think Owen gets talked about enough. People like him, people like Eddie, people like Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. God bless them all. We lost them all too soon. And that's the unfortunate thing where, we start talking about, well, who is the best ever? Who could have, and then you go, who could have been the best ever? And if there was one, I think Owen could have been the best ever if he wasn't taken from us so soon.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly do not believe that when that has happened, I don't think they should have carried on.
No, I agree with that. I agree 100%. That shouldn't have gone on. And yes, I saw the documentary with Vince and talking about, well, if it was me, I'd want the show to go on. Well, that's just Vince being Vince. You know what I mean? He's trying to justify what happened that night, and there's no justifying it. And I feel for the boys who had to continue on afterwards because, they all did it with a heavy heart. They were all in tears. Everybody was, and they had to continue on. And that I get it. I get the point where they're trying to say, well, there's 16,000 people who paid to see this, and how many people were watching on pay-per-view. At the end of the day, that doesn't justify it for me.
No, it's someone's life you're playing with and stuff like that. Yeah, especially on, like you mentioned, national TV and stuff like that. 16,000 people. Right. It's not on. And
imagine having to spring it on JR the way and Jerry Lawler the way they did. He's they're asking the truck, is there any update on Owen? And they told him that he had passed, and he says, okay, you're going to have to you let everybody know we'll be back in 10, 9. And they're like, there's no time to process this. You know what I mean? It's just, it was a horrible situation.
Yeah, like you mentioned, obviously the wrestlers, obviously the boys and girls who still had to carry on. Obviously, when he's pretty much, you saw it in the documentary, his blood was in the corner.
You know what? I saw that in the documentary, and I don't see. I'm trying to figure out where that blood came from, because I saw a wound in his arm, in Owen's arm, that wasn't bleeding. You know what I mean? It wasn't bleeding out. There was a wound there, but there was no blood. So I'm not saying it wasn't his, but I'm questioning it because there was a hardcore match prior to that, and I think somebody got a little bit dinged up in that one. So that could have been what it was, but like I said, I don't want to say one way or the other for sure. But I didn't notice. Any wound bleeding or anything like that.
One thing what I do love is AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, in his memory, at the Owen Hart tournament.
Yes.
I think that's amazing.
I think so too. I mean, good on them for keeping his memory alive. I love that. As someone who, was close to him, I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that Owen's wife, Martha, is allowing this to happen. Because for a long time she was struggling with it too. I can't imagine what she was going through. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and she was distancing herself from pro wrestling, but that was Owen's second love. Obviously his first love was his family, but his second love was pro wrestling, and he was pretty much wrestling for his family. You know what I mean? So I'm just glad that his memory is being kept alive in the pro wrestling industry in some form or fashion.
What's your opinions on AEW?
I like them. I just have, my quirks, they have little quirks that drive me crazy because they have so much talent, and it just seems like they're always in a rush. They're not taking their time. They have so many talented wrestlers, and I wish that they had people in place higher up that could manage things better. And I know a lot of people say, I'm hard on Tony Khan. I'm hard on him because let's face it, and I'm being totally honest here. I have no qualms about being honest about my opinion. Again, this is my opinion, and you know what I mean. Tony Khan, God bless him for bringing another product out there, giving another place for our guys and gals to work, which is great. Giving them a big platform. I mean, like, what other wrestling company is out there that has the platform they have? Other than WWE, obviously. That forget, they're miles ahead of everybody because they've had that 50, 60 year head start. You know what I mean? And they've got a corporate conglomerate behind them helping them build their brand, which is fine. But at the end of the day, when you look at WWE, who are the people in charge of creative? Who are the people in charge of talent? Who are the people that are in charge of that? Are all people who have been and lived and learned under others who have been successful in this business. Tony Khan, God bless him. From what I understand, I've never met him, but he's a nice guy, has never worked in the wrestling business. So as a boss, my opinion is he needs someone to run let him run the business side. Let him be the money. Let him do the deals with all the with television and getting them all their exposure and that sort of thing. Let someone else run the wrestling side. Someone who's been there. He's got people under his payroll that can do it.
Pretty good people as well.
Very smart people that can do it for him. But unfortunately, he wants to be in charge of everything. And I get it. It's your company. I get it. So you can run it any way you want to. I wish they had someone in charge that could help him, or he would listen to these people and say, okay, I understand. What do I need to do here? Because obviously, they've been struggling with attendance recently. I know the pay-per-views do well, as they should, because they do deliver on their pay-per-views. We get great matches. But that's the point. They deliver in-ring talent, but they don't. They're starting to try and tell longer-term stories now, aka the Death Rider story. But that thing keeps taking so many left turns that it's not keeping a straight path. You have to figure out what's your end game here. And unfortunately, sometimes it feels like they're. I know he said in an interview one time that he doesn't do long-term booking. He books week to week. And when you do that, that means you don't have a game plan. When you go into play, when you're playing football, when you're playing soccer, when you're playing, I'm for American fans, they don't know the difference. Yeah. Soccer is football. But anyways, when you go into a game, you have a game plan. Your coach lays out a game plan for your, and as the game is going on, if things don't go the way you planned, you can adjust on the fly, right? You start changing things. If you're down a goal, now you pick up the pace. You have to start more offense. Now you're not thinking as much defense as you were. When you're up in the game, now you're concentrating more on defense, right? That logically makes sense, at least in my world. Tony just goes out there and just goes, I don't know what my language parameters are here, but he just goes balls to the walls, throws everything out there, and just says, you know what? This is a great matchup. So-and-so versus so-and-so is a great matchup. And yes, it might be a great matchup on paper, but if both guys are baby faces or both guys are heels, now you're getting your audience a little bit, I don't want to say confused, but you're not helping the situation, because at the end of the day, what makes money in this business is having a top heel and a top baby face facing each other and giving a reason why, as opposed to just throwing them in the ring and saying, you know what, Kenny versus Omega, whatever number this is, 5 for them. Yeah, is a great matchup. And yes, it is a great matchup. But other than being a great matchup, give us a better reason why. I know I'm going off on this long.
I see what you mean, though.
Yeah, but if they concentrated more on sitting down, having a game plan, saying this is the story we want to tell. We want to get to eventually so and so versus so and so. We want this person to be our world champion eventually. Let's build him up. Let's take our time. Let's not rush it. And then we can tell that story and get people more invested. And when you start doing that, you'll see people start going, okay, now I'm getting an idea. I'm getting an idea. Here we go. I see where they're going with this. And then every once in a while you can give a little hiccup in the storytelling, but don't go too far left. I find that sometimes they just start something, they end it very quickly, and then they move on.
Yeah, and then it's like what you've just said. Obviously, build a character up to eventually be the world champion. I think they did that, in my opinion, really good with MJF.
Yes.
Prime example.
Yeah. See, MJF is a great example. He's a guy you can build your company around. At this point, he's gotten to the point where he doesn't need a championship. MJF is just that kind of guy. They had their opportunity with someone like Swerve. I thought Swerve was a good choice as champion. I just wasn't a big fan of the way he was presented as champion. Yeah. Because the Dynamite right after the champion, when he won the championship, that show should have opened with Swerve and the big celebration. But it opened up with a match, and again, it's not a shot at him, but it opened up with a match with Orange Cassidy or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just had Swerve win your world championship in a big deal. This was a huge deal, and this is the way you open your show. You come out guns a-blazing with your world champion. You make it feel like the biggest deal in the world. Not like, oh, we'll put him in the crossover segment. He didn't even end the show. If you could have pumped it, you could have promoted throughout the show and say, hey, you know what? Later on tonight we're going to hear from our champion and get people to anticipate it. But they didn't even do that. They just put him in the middle of the show.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But again, I wish them. People say I critique them too much and a little too harshly. That's only because I want them to do well. I have friends there. I don't want to see my friends lose their job, because if AEW disappears, where does everybody go? There's no room for everybody elsewhere. I mean, can everybody go on the indies? I mean, yes, it's a better atmosphere doing indies now, but at the same time, there's only so much room for everybody. So
you can't book everyone, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
So WrestleMania 24. That is probably one of your highlights of your career, especially being in with the Undertaker and Edge.
Yes.
A streak match as well. World title match as well.
Absolutely. And there was talk about it. Undertaker was actually lobbying to have Edge be the one to break the streak that night.
Wow.
And then Edge said no. Edge was the one who said, no, this streak is something special. It should continue. But that's how much Undertaker thought of Edge. Again, when you talk about underrated or underappreciated talents, yes, I'm biased because he's Canadian. Edge is one of those guys, or Cope as he's known now. And when we go back, sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. There's another guy that you have in your locker room that they should take full advantage of his mind, because he's a smart dude. But anyway, very special, because I wasn't originally scheduled to referee that match. I was originally scheduled to referee another match, but about a week or 2 weeks before, I ran into Adam in the locker room, and he says, Jimmy, can I talk to you? I say, yeah, sure. What's up? He says, Taker and I have been talking. We want you to referee our match at WrestleMania. I said, oh, wow, that's cool. But I'm scheduled to do something else. He says, yeah, I think we can get it changed. Go, okay, if you guys want, whatever, like, that's cool. He says, are you okay with it? I'm so, are you kidding me? Am I okay with this? Of course I'm okay with this. This is cool. And then I ran into Taker a few minutes later, he says, did Edster talk to you? I said, yeah, he talked to me. He says, are you all right with that? And I'm thinking to myself now, why are they asking me if I'm okay with this? Of course I'm freaking okay with it. This is amazing, And, and then I started getting a little anxious going, okay, now I'm a little nervous now because I want to perform. I want to be the guy who's there for them. You know what I mean? And hopefully they were happy with it, but it was an honor for me.
It's one of them because obviously the Undertaker's matches, especially at Mania, a 20, 25 minute plus.
Oh yeah.
Even possibly longer going into the 30 minutes. So that match you've got a big responsibility, especially in however thousands of people that were there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And people don't realize how much that the talent count on the referee for so many different things. It's not just passing times and passing messages from Gorilla that they give you in your IFB. It's communicating between the talent because, you have to check on them. You're checking on their safety. You're making sure they're okay. They're telling them to take it easy. They're also They're passing messages to you and saying, okay, tell them that we're going to do this next. Tell them this. And then you have to do that and help pass those messages without being obvious. Oh, look, he's telling him something. The referee's telling it. You have to make it look like you're doing it.
Really good how you do it. It's really good. It's like a secret, isn't it? Like no one knows, but obviously you do.
Well, yeah, you have to do it like you're doing your job. Like if you're checking on someone who's taken like a big nasty bump or something, and they just passed you a message, you're going down to check on them and you're asking them if they're okay. You do that, but in the process, then you pass that message at the same time. You don't just randomly walk over and just talk to them. There has to, just like everything, reasons. You have to have a reason to go over there and pass that message. So you have to be creative sometimes in the way you do it.
So I've read it in loads of interviews and seen it before. Obviously, the main event of WrestleMania, that's where the money is.
Yes.
For the superstars. Is it same with the referees as well?
Yeah. If you do a main event, you do, especially at a pay-per-view or WrestleMania, you do get a little bonus, which is not a bad thing. Full disclosure, you do get a bonus. WrestleMania obviously is a good payday for everybody who's on the show, including the referees. But depending on what match you do, you sometimes get a little extra, which is nice. Nice little recognition.
If you can reveal, what is the biggest you have been received, whether that's WrestleMania or pay-per-view? You don't have to answer, obviously.
I wish I had a number. I don't have a number for you because, I got it probably somewhere locked up. My wife keeps everything, like all that stuff. I go downstairs and I'll clean up stuff and I'll find like a notepad with the month of shows and where we went and stuff like that. But she keeps all the pay receipts. She kept them all, so she's got them locked up somewhere. But let me just put it this way: it was a good payday.
Nice family holiday.
Yeah.
So WWE superstars get royalties. Does referees as well?
My understanding now, I think they do because now some of the referees are like in the video games and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's very true.
And stuff like that. So I believe they are getting some now. I not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they do now, which is kind of cool. I don't see any that have T-shirts, but I don't. Again, the whole premise behind that is referees don't really sell tickets, and I get that, but at the same time, it's nice to see them recognized. Like put them in the video game is a nice little something for them, at least, anyways.
Yeah, it'd be a nice thing to do, obviously, because especially with you being there for 20 odd years, do you know what I mean? It'd be nice for a little bit of something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. It'd be nice little recognition. It's just whether they'd have it, the version with me with hair from back in the day or without it.
Well, as you get older, mate, you start losing it and thinning out.
Yeah, I have what I call the Greek curse. I grow it everywhere except where I want it. But anyway.
The Greek curse. I love that. Obviously, like we said, you've been there 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. main event at Mania, obviously, how does a referee's contract work compared to a normal contract for a WWE superstar? Is it pretty much the same and stuff?
It's very similar. You get a downside guarantee, and some of the travel stuff is the same. They don't really do house shows now anymore, except for when they do come overseas to like where you are in Europe and stuff like that. But it's basically it's very similar. Obviously, not the same pay rate that some of the superstars would get, but you get a good deal. But one of the things I did was I was actually, for lack of a better term, double dipping, because I was also part of the production crew, which was the ring crew, and doing other duties like that. So when you're part of the production and ring crew, all your perks are all your travel expenses are taken care of. Now, for talent and referees who are not part of production, the company will take care of your travel from home to your first destination. Then all the travel in between, for example, hotel, rental car, meals, are on you. That's, you have to cover those they're your own expenses, which you can write off as in your taxes and stuff like that. And then they fly you home. When you are part of the production crew, they'll fly you out. All your meals, your hotels, your car rentals and stuff like that are taken care of as part of being part of the production crew. So not only am I getting paid to referee, I'm getting paid to do the production work and ring crew, and I don't have any expenses coming out of my pocket except for the little things, because I used to smoke back in the day, so they won't pay for my cigarettes or anything like that. But you know what I mean? But I didn't have meal expenses. I didn't have hotel expenses. I didn't have rental car expenses. So, later on when I was doing it for several years, guys were saying, well, you've been here a while. Why don't you get off the ring crew? And I keep telling them, because I'm not stupid. I'm getting all this stuff taken care of and I don't have to worry about it. And, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Mm. So when you left, it was like 2009 you left, weren't it?
Yes.
So obviously being with the company for 20 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
how did you, and obviously going on the road for like 300 days a year plus, how did you cope at the time, like when you left and you was like, wow, what do I do now? Because obviously you used to being so busy.
Right.
I bet it must be like, God, I miss it. I miss doing this. It's because it's like a routine, isn't it? You get so used to it, and it's like, shit.
Yeah, yeah. It was exactly like that. It was kind of like, I was programmed to leave every Friday and come home every Wednesday. So I was basically home. The only full day I had at home was Thursday, and then partial, Friday, Wednesday evening, and Friday mornings, and that was it. So now I'm like home 24/7. I'm like, you're right. I'm like looking around, going, what do I do now? So one of the first things I did was my wife and I went on a vacation to Europe.
Okay.
We did that. We took a month and went to Europe, and it was kind of like, okay. And now we got back home, and I'm like, now what? I'm we're good. I'm fine with retiring and stuff like that, but retirement is kind of boring, So I was looking for something to do, and my wife says, well, you like talking a lot. Why don't you get into like broadcasting and stuff like that? And I said, I don't know. I don't know if I could handle that talking on, like, I talk a lot now, but I don't know if I could talk on the air and that kind of stuff. So I went and took a course in broadcasting and stuff like that. And then I ran into a fellow by the name of Art O'Cal, who used to work at Score Television here. He used to broadcast all the WWE television shows here. They were the rights holders for Canada. And he used to do a show on Sirius Radio here in Canada called Right After Wrestling, where after Raw, he would go on and he'd talk about Raw and recap and that kind of stuff and give opinions. And he said, why don't you come in and come on the show one time? And I said, yeah, okay. Hey, why not? It should sit in the studio, watch the show, and then just go and talk about it for about an hour afterwards. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Let's do it. And then it morphed into a television show, and then started doing the television show. And when that when Sportsnet took over the rights for WWE, all the shows morphed over there, and they brought me aboard, and I said, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And then and it ran for a little over 10 years on television. So that was, you know what I mean? And it was just a once a week gig. And I said, you know what I mean? That's kind of cool. I like that. You know, I don't have to go down to the studio every day. It was once a week. That's cool. And do a little thing here and there every once in a while. And then COVID hit, and all the studios were on lockdown. So all they had was the essential personnel there who would do the sports news and that kind of stuff. And then once the studios opened up again, they just figured, we're not bringing the show back. So stuff happens. So now basically just doing podcasting with Brian Hebner, Earl's son, who used to referee as well, and Daniel Spencer, who's the lead official at TNA. So we're doing a podcast that's called Reffing It Up, and I also do a radio show, actual real radio, believe it or not, here in Canada. I guess people still listen to radio, I hope. Called Huge Pop Radio, and Donnie DeSilva and I do that show every week, and we're having fun. So we're just talking about wrestling, you know, kind of like
so you're still keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, a little busy. So, you know, it keeps me occupied. You know, my wife's not a wrestling fan, so she's saying, okay, yeah, if it makes you happy, do what you're doing. And, you know, God bless her. She put up with me for how many years while I was on the road, and then finally I'm home, and now she's thinking, you know, don't you have anything to do? Don't you want to play golf or something?
Yeah. We've chatted about so many things in the last 30 plus minutes. So the final two questions, and then we will wrap it up, because I really enjoyed this one. I found out a lot. Do you know what I mean? We talked about different areas, WrestleMania 24, Owen, Eddie, secrets as a rep, your podcasting journey and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Amazing. So who is your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?
Oh, that's a tough one, because everybody's they're very subjective, and it's all personal opinions and stuff like that. But when you look back, you have to look at I have two Mount Rushmores. This is weird.
Okay.
Because I have two Mount Rushmores, because when I look at people, I mentioned Randy Orton as being the most complete wrestler right now, or worker on the planet. So when I look at it that way, I put guys like Randy Orton, Bret Hart, because Bret, everything he did looked believable, so believable, it was incredible. I would put somebody like Eddie on there, but unfortunately, you know, far too soon. But when you think about great workers, I put like an AJ Styles on there.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick a fourth, and people are going to say, what? Kurt Angle.
Okay, I see that.
So, and if you go from guys who drew money, which is a different, you know, category altogether, you definitely got to put someone like Andre the Giant on there. Okay. Because wherever he went, he drew money. It didn't matter who he was facing. He was an attraction, and people wanted to see him. And some of the stuff, if you watch some of the stuff he used to do in Japan, you would go, my goodness, I can't believe he's doing that stuff. When he was younger, that is, of course. You got to put Hogan on there, regardless of what you think of him now. He still, as far as drawing money, the guy drew money. Everybody wanted to work with him, because when you worked with Hogan, you made money. I mean,
very true.
Yeah. Stone Cold. And, you know, again, from a money standpoint, John Cena. And I feel bad, because one of the omissions on both Mount Rushmore lists, because this is a name that a lot of the boys will pick, is Shawn Michaels. So he's kind of like the wild card.
That's true. It's a pretty, like you mentioned, everyone's got his own Mount Rushmore, and it depends what flavor people like and stuff like that. And moves, if they're like high flyers, technical wrestlers, it all varies.
Yes. Yeah.
So the final question, I ask this everyone: what's an inspirational message from Jimmy?
Inspirational message is not even wrestling related, just just treat people like you'd love to be treated. You know what I mean? I try to do that. People will look at my Twitter and go, "What do you mean? You're kind of snarky with people." I'm snarky. If you're very respectful, guess what? You're going to get that back. I treat people the way they treat me, and I am. I try to at least be as nice as possible until a certain point, because we know how toxic it is on social media sometimes, and we just got to remember that that you know, just be kind every once in a while. You know, somebody, if you see somebody that needs a helping hand, you know, if you see somebody reaches out and they're struggling with whatever they're going through, you know, just to say, hey, everything's going to be okay, you know, and if you need to talk, you know, I'm here.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like that one because it's always, I ask that everyone who I have on, because you know, like Chris Van Vliet does his like 3 things that he's grateful for.
mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Obviously, this one is because there is a lot of toxic in the world and stuff like that. So an inspirational message, someone might watch this and think, do you know what? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because you don't know what people are going through, what struggles they're going through, whether you know, whether it's, I'm just picking stuff out, like whether there's problems at home, whether there's financial troubles, where someone's struggling with their own personal confidence. You know, some people struggle with their own confidence and stuff like that. You don't know what people are going through. So, you know, just, you know, if you can just try to be civil, try to be respectful, saying hello and just giving somebody, you know, some encouragement. You know, how much time of the day does that take for you to just say, hey, you know what, everything's going to be cool. Just you know, sometimes you have to weather this, whatever the message is. Just like I said, just be kind. It doesn't
100%.
hurt. Doesn't hurt anybody. Doesn't cost you anything.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jimmy, thank you for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate your time. I hope you've had a blast. I'll definitely hope to have you on in the near future.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on. This is great. I miss the UK, man. I really do. You know, hopefully you can make it out there. And I know my wife wants to head out there, so maybe we'll go out there for vacation. You never know.
Make sure you come in the summer, not the winter.
Yes, I will do that. Definitely. Yeah. Well, we try to escape here the winter, that's for sure. We had a nasty one this year, so yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Take care, man.